Energy.
Right.
Don't know why we don't have energy. We're normally very energetic people.
Yeah.
Maybe because we're out watching the cricket.
Yep.
All right. Welcome to Crim City. I'm Josh Hanrahan.
I'm Mark Murray.
Moz, another week, another massive name in Sydney's underworld, Australia's underworld really, detained overseas.
Bilal Houcher.
Yeah.
A huge name. Like really, he's been around the Sydney scene for 2 decades and he's only 36. You know, he's kind of burst on there in his 20s. Now, he left the country under bizarre circumstances. 2018, he pled guilty to accessory after the fact for a shooting, a fatal shooting. Now, he was put on basically on a good behaviour bond, but cops, they considered him one of the most dangerous men in Sydney at the time.
Yeah.
So they quickly applied for like an extensive supervision order. You know how that is, so they can put a bracelet on him and monitor him, and they've gone to the court to get that done. But Bilal left the country beforehand.
And that, I remember you've obviously been, as you said, Bilal Houcher's been around for years and you've written, I don't know how many dozens of stories about him, and I had to do a bit of catch up.
Yeah.
It was before my time, and I read your story about it, and I think you broke that one, didn't you? That Bilal Houcher had gone overseas, and you kind of put him on the map as being this big name who had got out of town before the police could get him.
Went over to Dubai, and he's well known, and he caught up with Mark Buttle.
Yeah. Well, because Bilal Houcher, as you said, this is a guy who had been on the streets and on the scene since he was a teenager.
Yeah.
And then as he rose up through the ranks, he was there alongside guys like Mark Buttle, and then eventually had guys under him doing an apprenticeship almost under him, like the Almadine crime clan, who have been involved in, you know, Sydney's underworld war with the Hamsies, and these are some of the families that we've talked about in recent years. And the Houchers aren't one that we've spoken about a lot, but they're a massive deal, aren't they?
They are one of the supreme crime families in this city, and that's why what we talk about coming up is massive. That the police, you could hear the excitement in the voice of some senior police when they were saying, we're making big arrests and we're going to allege we've taken down the Houcher crime syndicate. Now, one guy said to me, he said, no one really in Sydney understands how big this is. He said, I think he's blaming us for basically saying everybody thinks about the Almadines and the Hamsies.
Yeah.
In the background, the Houchers are massive, and there's some other families that maybe I think later on we should talk about. But Houcher, do not underestimate the significance of the arrests that we talk about, and the detaining of Bilal Houcher in Lebanon, even though he's not going to be in for very long, and in fact is probably out while we're talking now, but because he has that much power.
Why is Bilal Houcher such a big deal? You spoke about the fact that he pleaded guilty to accessory after the fact to a shooting or a murder or something back in the day, but that's not a crime that you or I would want to be charged and convicted of. But it's probably not enough for police to mark him down as being, you know, one of the biggest players in Sydney's underworld. So what else do they think he's done?
I think that they want to talk to him over a number of murders before he left the country. As I said, he was known as a guy that was willing to do anything, you know. They have a guy in Melbourne who got killed called Mr. Capable, because he was capable of anything. I think Bilal, I've had police officers say, probably one of the most dangerous men this city has seen. When he was here, and I think his influence has still been extensive in Sydney to this day. That's
a bit of the backstory of Bilal Houcher. I love the fact that at one point you were getting emails. Were they from him or from someone in his group sending you photos of him in Lebanon? The most, as I said, it's almost iconic now. Bilal with 2 machine guns. Yeah. That came from somebody who just said, I think you'll be interested in this, Mark. Okay. I was going to say, I didn't think he would be emailing you. No. And somebody who may know his associate said he was pretty unhappy where he believed he knew where that came from. Yeah, right. Then there was another photo of him looking he's sitting there at dinner. Yeah. And like, this guy's having a really good life over there, you know? Well, I got a photo sent to me by I don't know who recently, and this is the kind of thing, isn't it? Every now and then. Yes. And I said it last week on the show, you know, if you've ever got anything, feel free to send it to us on email. But, you know, I got this photo of him sitting next to a bloke called Mohammed Al-Nut, who had gone over to Lebanon, and there was a photo of them at a nice dinner. So people are happy to share photos of him living the life in Lebanon, but it all came, well, I was going to say it all came crashing down. It didn't quite come crashing down, but it was definitely a big week for Bilal Houcher last week.
And his family.
Yes.
So, as I said, the family is a lot bigger in the Sydney crime scene than has ever been given credit.
Yeah.
A lot of that has been, that gloss has been taken by the Al-Madines and the Hamzis because of the war that they've been involved in. The fact that you had Michael Ibrahim and Sam Ibrahim, who had such high profiles, put the Ibrahim family on the map.
And they were in conflict with the Houchers, weren't they?
Yeah, big time.
The Ibrahims and Houchers?
Yeah. And there was, supposedly Michael was involved in the shooting of Omar Houcher, taking out an eye. Right? Now, that supposedly was a big feud. It's been sorted out. There's talk, which I didn't understand, especially in the Middle East.
Was it Omar or was it Osman?
Oh, Osman. You're right.
Yeah,
Osman.
that's all right.
Yeah.
Because there's a few brothers.
Yeah, there are.
Which we'll come to in a second.
That's right. And the other part, apparently, what happens in the underworld involving some of these shootings, blood money is paid, is what's considered. So you injure somebody, even kill, that you can make the feud go away, in some cases, by paying large amounts of money to the family. It's an extraordinary way to... That's something we don't understand. I don't understand anyway.
So last week on Monday, I got a call from a bloke who said, it's really weird. I've heard that Ned Houcher, Bilal Houcher's brother's been arrested, but it's not on the Telegraph. He said, I assume if it's happened, it would be on the Telegraph. I said, oh, well, it can't have happened if it's not on our website. But I made a few calls, and funnily enough, it had happened. It hadn't come through to us yet. So there it was.
And there was a reason, obviously, why it hadn't been announced.
Yes. Well, I called the police and the police media unit, which is, set up to kind of be the in-between between journalists and the officers.
And the dissemination of
information.
Sometimes,
making sure that not everything that happens gets out.
Yep.
And whatnot, and so that journalists can't harass police officers 24/7.
1 sec. Yep.
Oh, you're right. No, take that text.
Right. No, it's somebody telling me they don't think Bilal Houcher is out yet.
Oh, okay.
That's, as I said, because it's all weekend, the phone has been going, he's out. No, he's not. Yes, he is.
Yeah,
gangster. And as we said, even we're getting to these, as you said, the arrests of his brother at the airport you were asked to keep it quiet.
Yes.
Because there was obviously a major operation going on.
Yeah, so I called up the police and said, hey, have you picked up Bilal Houcher's brother? And I said, how do you know about that? And they said, please don't write about it. You can't. And so we have a relationship with the police that goes both ways. And so
sometimes, you don't want to stuff up an operation.
No, we wouldn't.
Because then they don't talk. But there are times when they go, well, we can't stop you. And we go, if it's going to fuck up an operation, we won't.
Yeah. And
sometimes they just go, well, okay, do what you got to do.
And there are times when they don't talk to us because they're pissed off.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's our job. Anyway, as I was saying, got asked, please don't write about it. Can't tell you why, but please don't write about it. But we had an inkling, didn't we? We'd heard that there was some things, on the grapevine. There might be some things happening.
As I said, I rang up a guy and he said, don't go out this week.
Don't go out drinking.
Don't go out. You've got to be fresh in the morning.
Fresh every morning.
Just in case. When you find out something they don't want it out, and they do, they say, look, if you don't, we'll help you out. We'll do the right thing. We'll give you a bit of a drop on the rest of the meat. And that's to explain, we're not given favouritism sometimes.
No.
This is actually them returning a favour for not
totally
exposing something that could jeopardise. So I just want to make sure it's not like we get hand-fed.
No, far from it.
Yeah.
And then Wednesday morning it all happened.
Yeah.
So we were up early. We kind of figured that it couldn't be far away. So I remember both of us were up by 6.
And there was whispers, like I couldn't sleep Tuesday night. There was whispers, we were thinking, is it going to be tomorrow or Thursday? We really didn't know.
No.
So...
And then it began to come through from, every man and his dog. There'd been 27 or 28 arrests in Sydney.
Having 20 gun seized.
20 gun seized, tons of drugs, including precursor chemicals, which they used to make drugs, cash by the bundle,
Yep.
and then all these individuals locked up. And so that was big. And then there was talk that, okay, well, hang on, we're going to try and... New South Wales Police Force had been running an investigation for the best part of a year. But the biggest part of that investigation was what they were hoping would happen overseas, which was that Lebanese law enforcement would carry out some raids and arrests of figures from Sydney who were living over there, including Bill al-Houcher, who I think we kind of thought, oh yeah, good one. That'll happen, right? I mean, Lebanon's a country that haven't had a president for a year. They literally don't have a leader.
I didn't know you were an expert in international affairs as well.
You don't know half the things I'm an expert on.
Right.
And you know, also because of that, it's one of these countries where a bloke like Bill al-Houcher has managed to live there for however long, 5 years or whatever it is. 5 years.
Although, early on he was Dubai and other places. Yeah.
But with a dual citizenship, knowing he would never be extradited, so we thought, okay, what are the chances that they would actually arrest him? But then they did, and New South Wales Police got a phone call from someone telling them that Bill al-Houcher had been detained. Who was that person that called them?
That was me. I actually sent a text, because I got a text early in the morning saying they got Bill Al over in Lebanon. Now, like talking to somebody from New South Wales Police quite high up and said, shit, you know, we were hoping.
Yeah.
We didn't know. We have no authority. And, you know, and so when I contacted them, they came back and went, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So now I think, poor old Bill Al, I think when the police also were talking, they obviously were talking to the Lebanese police and authorities. And they probably were painting the picture of the scale of that operation and the amount of money they're alleging that organisation was turning over.
The Houcher organised crime network, as they call it.
Being operated from Beirut, basically, from, you know.
Yeah, from Lebanon.
And the figure is like 1.5 billion.
Yeah, which is crazy, isn't it? And what's so interesting about that is, as you say, we've waxed lyrical about the Alameddines and the Houchers, and the Alameddines and the Hamsies, and the whole time police allege the Houchers have been one of the biggest networks, flying under the radar, letting these other crime families, bikie gangs, whatever it may be, take all the headlines and all the police attention and operate, you know, under the radar until the organised crime squad launched that investigation a year ago. Pretty much.
Now we're never going to find out, but we do know that the infiltration of that crime gang has come from, alleged crime gang, has come from inside, and it's come from a guy that everybody in the underworld knows his name.
You say we're not going to find out, but everybody's claiming to know who it is.
Yeah, and he's no longer around, which is a very smart thing to do because he's taken off. So, and the story goes that this guy, who we know has had a young relative of his, was shot. A totally innocent person, very, very young, so young we couldn't even name them, right? So that shows you that it's all very protected. Now, whether that was the inspiration for this person to decide to turn on the Houcher, who had nothing to do with the shooting, as far as I know, but to think that maybe this life is not that great. You know, as I said, the motivation for talking for informants is fascinating. One of my good mates he had a lot of informants, not always good. Some of them are all dead or missing. So
a copper?
Yeah, former cop. But the motivation can be revenge, it can be to cut a deal, or it can be on the road to Damascus. Bang, I'm going to have to change my life. And maybe having a young relative nearly lose their life, he's gone, fuck these guys in this life, I've got to do something. Who knows?
One of the most interesting parts of the arrest last week was the arrest of a bloke called Mr. Dark. Well, that's what his nickname was.
That's right.
And there was also, he was known as Mr. Dark because that was his, that was allegedly his handle on these encrypted devices that the underworld used to contact each other. And he had a garage full of these devices which he'd sell to street level. If you were a street level drug dealer, you got a phone that wasn't so good. It was just
The
basic,
bottom feeder is what
model.
they call them.
The cops call them bottom feeders. Yeah,
Yep.
they got the basic
And
model.
then the hierarchy elite are up there.
The big dog's got a bit better phone. But if you're in the middle, you needed two phones. You needed a basic phone and a better phone to speak up and down the chain, which I thought was fascinating.
You know what I loved about the fact sheet on Mr. Dart? I love the fact that they go in there, they seize all these phones, and he says, well, yeah, what I do is I buy these phones off Facebook Market or something. What's it called?
Yeah, Facebook Marketplace.
And he said, I buy them, and then I jazz them up a little bit, and I sell them. I make about $100, $150. That's what he's telling the cops, alleged. All right. They find $20,000 cash there. I guess is his job unemployed. I love that.
Yeah.
And all these, $2 million seized. Employment status? Unemployed. I love that. How often do you see it?
I know, it's very regular. Another part, I was going to say, another part of the arrest that was really interesting was what happened in Lebanon. It wasn't just Bilal Houcha, but there was another bloke. There was 4 blokes apparently who were with him who were also detained by Lebanese police, and one of them was Abdul Baghdadi. And if you're listening and you're thinking, why do I know that name? Why do they know that name, Moz?
That's because a few weeks ago, and not that long ago, somebody tried to put about 5 bullets into Baghdadi, who's a very big player, right? He's just out of jail. He's linked to numerous OMCGs, outlaw motorcycle gangs, or bikies.
At Kirribilli.
At Kirribilli. So this is a big shooting. It's not far from where the PM hangs out.
Yep.
You know, with that house that he has there. And so this was a serious attempt. There were 2 burnt-out cars found out. He has taken off within a week or two. Now, he must have been given permission because he was on parole. And where does he go? Lebanon to meet Bilal. Now, this is a signal of perhaps a wider conflict on the Sydney streets at the moment, which was happening before these arrests. And obviously the Houches had no idea this was coming. Now, to try and take out somebody that close to him, that signals that that there's some tension out there between one of the major crime figures that police allege, who's overseas, is in Bilal, and another organisation here, and that could be quite scary. So we've got to watch that. As I said, before these big arrests, I was hearing this is bubbling along, there's big trouble brewing, that there were other players in the crime world trying to say to both parties, cool it. This is no time to have a big war. That is going on there. That's not good for business. But where the cops, again, they're very quite smart sometimes, our policemen. So while they get ready to take down what they allege is one of the biggest suppliers of cocaine and that, they are thinking forward, and they're working already on who may be ready to try and step up to the plate.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so we had a chat with Peter Foe, who's the head of the organised crime squad, after they made all these arrests, and he said that, well, he didn't say, but usually police would carry out their investigation, lock up whoever they want to lock up, and go, you beauty, we're all done, let's go to the pub and celebrate.
That creates all sorts of problems, I think.
Well, it then leaves gaps in the market, and so what they've done now is go, okay, for the past month, as they were getting towards what they call resolution of the job, towards the point where they're going to, hey, how about me? Get to the point where they're going to do these lockups. They went, okay, well, instead of just locking him up, dusting our hands of, going, good job and let's go to the pub, they went, okay, let's gather some intelligence on who the people are who are likely to see an opportunity here to try and make a bigger name for themselves and seize their business, and let's target them next. So they're already looking ahead, which means that there's a whole lot of guys out there thinking you beauty. Now they're going to be thinking, are the cops onto us as well? So I was scrolling through Instagram and I noticed one of the videos that the social media team had put up from our podcast, where you were talking about the arrest of Hakan Aik over in Turkey. And I noticed there was an interesting person who'd liked it. It was Jason Fay. Oh, really? Yeah, the bikie, big-time bikie, former bandito. Now it's crossed over to the Hells Angels. Yeah. Wow. So he was seemingly happy that a couple of the Comancheros had been locked up. Oh, I tell you what, the Hells Angels will be looking at what's going on here, and they're very, very clever. As I said, the Hells Angels will be looking to step into here Yeah.
and make some money, and they'll do it a lot. They'll do it quietly.
It's also good to know he's a fan of the show.
It is. It's
Yeah.
terrific.
Do you want to take that phone call?
No.
No, are you sure?
I'll have to talk to you. I've actually got recording devices on me at the moment. I'll give you a call. Okay, see you later. Oh dear. So anyway, that could go to another funny story if you want to talk about interactions with the police. I did have one many, many years ago.
You did?
I had an interaction, yeah. It was when I was very, very young, and again, I hate it because my mum's listening. But I was out drinking, obviously, then at a party. And anyway, my mum earlier in the day had asked me to take the washing off the line anyway. I've gone to this party, got blind drunk, and had to leave the party about 2 a.m. or something. And I've gone to take some washing off the line and then gone to put it in the laundry. Wrong house, wrong suburb. Right? So anyway, the police called, because at the time there was a guy getting around called the North Shore Rapist, and I was on the North Shore, so people were a little bit on edge. And I ended up getting, anyway, handcuffs taken to Chatswood Police Station. It was a long time ago. And these guys, well, obviously it was just making an honest mistake. I was trying to take these people's washing off the line. It was just the wrong house, and it was 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Anyway, I get charged with break and enter. Not good.
No.
Not good for a fledgling young crime reporter.
Oh, could be perfect.
Well, it was good. It was a little bit of... So anyway, it wasn't real handy. I had to go to Hornsby Court, and luckily the guy next door to me was a police prosecutor.
Yep.
But he also had some friends up, so I had a barrister represent me in Hornsby Court, right? You're talking back in the early 80s. Hornsby Court, it's like, the backwater almost. And I've got this QC, and he's gone in there, and he's just like buried the police story. But it was embarrassing because it was like, so... He's talking to the cops. So what items was he taking off the line? And there was like children's clothing and stuff. That just, mate, I didn't have children at this time.
Yeah, it looks a bit weird.
It did look a little bit. Anyway, the magistrate dismissed it because I was too drunk to form an intention to steal, which I don't think you can get away with now. They shouldn't have charged me with break and enter. It should have been drunk and enter.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's by the by. So that was my interaction with the police.
That's a shame.
What do you mean?
I wish you had pleaded guilty.
Yeah, I know. Well, we mightn't be sitting here.
No, we might not.
Anyway, I don't know how you'll fit that in because...
Oh, we'll find time for that. Don't you worry.